All right, guys, welcome back. Hopefully you watched the iReady video that went along with this, and that's going to be very helpful on top of this already. So we're starting lesson 3. Lesson 3 is I like to say reading and writing decimals. Reading and writing decimals is no different than reading and writing whole numbers, except we just have to add a little something at the end, and that's it. So use what we know. You already know how to read and write whole numbers and fractions. Reading and writing decimals is similar. Jessica is reading aloud from a science website. She comes across the measurements 32 hundredths meter and 543 thousandths meter. How should she read 0.32? Well, just like I read it before, Jessica can read it one of two ways. She can read it as 3/10 and 2/100, because it is. I have 3 in the tenths place and 2 in the hundredths place. But if I said, hey, this number is 3/10 and 2/100, that's going to be a little more harder to do that. But it's much easier to tell me how many hundredths are in there. And I can say there are 32 hundredths in this problem. Okay? So let's read the number as hundredths. Okay? So let's write 3/10 as a fraction. So if we said 3/10, the tenth is my denominator. Okay? My 3 is my numerator. So 3/10. Okay? So now we're going to have to write an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 100. So what we have to do, we have to take 3/10 and make an equivalent numerator that's going to be equal to 100, like it did over here. So what we actually have to do is you actually have to find a relationship between the bottom numbers first. So what do I have to do to 10 to get 100? That's right. I have to go 10 times 10 is 100. So if I multiply these two by 10, I have to multiply this one by 10. So 3 times 10 is 30. So 3/10 is equal to 30 hundredths. 3/10 is equal to 30 hundredths. Okay, so let's write 2 hundredths as a fraction. Okay, hundredths is my denominator. The 2 is my numerator. So now I can actually add these two numbers together, because before it would have been 3/10 plus 2 hundredths, and I cannot do that because my denominators have to be the same. So I did the equivalent fraction to that. So right now, I'm going to complete the equation to add the like fractions for 3/10 and 2 hundredths. So 3/10, okay, 3/10 is equal to 30 hundredths. Then add 2 hundredths. Okay, so 30 plus 2 is 32. And these 100s just move on over. Okay, all they have to do is they move on over. You do not say 100 plus 100 is 200. Now that's only with fractions, okay? Now, it says write the words how Jessica should read the number. When you read the number, and it's a decimal, when you first say it, don't even worry about the decimal right there. So how would we say that? That's right, you would say 32. Now the only thing we have to add is the place value. You look at the place value of the last digit. And our last digit was a 2, and it's in the hundredths place. So she would say 32 hundredths. And that's exactly how she would say the number. Okay, so 32 hundredths. Letter F, explain how you can use place value and factors to read a number with 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. Well, explain how you can use place value and fractions to read the number with 2 digits to the right. Well, one thing you could do is write each decimal digit as a fraction. That's how we could do it first. So you would write each decimal digit as a fraction. And what it means by this is what we did for A, B, and C. Okay? With a denominator of 10 or 100. Okay? Then we would write the equivalent. Now remember, equivalent means what is equal to. Okay? Equivalent means equal or the same. Fractions. And you add. And we add them together. The numerator tells you how many hundredths there are, okay? That's what it says. And that should be capital T. The numerator, and you should know that the numerator is the top number. Okay. So, and I apologize for that, I misdid the T. So what you would do first is you would write each decimal as a fraction, with the denominator either a 10 or 100. Then you would find the, if you need to, you would have to find the equivalent fractions, and you would simply add them together. And once you add them together, remember your denominator stays the same. Once you add them together, that numerator that's going to be on top, that's how you would say it. You would say whatever that number is, hundredths. Okay, if you need more time, just pause the video. We can continue writing and just restart it here in a minute, okay? Now let's go here. You can read decimals as a string of digits, for example, 0.32. But to give meaning to the amount the decimal represents, you need the place value of the smallest size unit and read the number and say how many units it is. So the least place value in 32 hundredths, or 0.32, is hundredths, right here. That's our smallest digit. So you read the decimal by saying how many hundredths there are. Read 0.32 as 32 hundredths. Now, let's look at this. And this throws some people for a loop, okay? Here's the same digit with a 0 in the thousands place. The decimal 0.320, the least place value is the thousandths place. All right? Even though 0.320 is equal to 0.32, you read the 0.320, this is confusing, to tell how many thousandths there are. So we read this number right here, the 0.320, as 320 thousandths. Like I said, pretend that that's not even there. in this because that may throw you off too. Just read that number. It's 320 thousandths. So 320 thousandths. Okay, this chart below shows 0.543. Okay, the least place value in 0.543 is the thousandths place. Now, let's pretend that there is no decimal and there is no numbers up here. How would you say, this pen's not going to be working for me. How would you say that number regularly? Well, you would say 543. That's right. But we have to add on the thousandths. So it's 543 thousandths. When a decimal number includes a whole number, like it's a mixed number, you do it just like a mixed number. So you read 3 and 5 over 10 as 3 and 5 tenths. That's just how you read it. It's the same thing. Okay, now let's reflect. Based on all of this we just read, we're going to answer number 1. Okay? Number 1 says write 1.005 as a mixed number. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, then write how to read this number aloud. Okay, so I have a whole number, which is 1, and the 5 is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. So it's going to be over 1,000. So 1 and 5 over 1,000. Now, how would I read it? Okay, I go to my last digit, and whatever place value it's in, I tag that on to the number. So you would say 1, and, because we have a decimal, 5 thousandths. It is that easy. So if you need to, make yourself, or I can provide you with a place value chart that helps you if you have to write these numbers down and look up and see where we're going to have your names. We can do that. But just the best thing to do is practice, practice, practice. So that is the assignment for your video lesson. So let's do this, and then I'll get back with you here in a little bit with your work, with your problem solving and other things. Talk to y'all later.